Hello and welcome to the International Mediation Awareness Week podcast. I'm Joanne Law, Regional Coordinator for Australasia. The next IMAW, International Mediation Awareness Week, is on the 7th to the 11th of November 2022. Leading up to that, this podcast will introduce you to regional coordinators, event partners and speakers who'll share with you their insights and passion for mediation. Mediation for every stage of life. Hello and welcome. Today I'm talking to Kathleen Leedy from the United States. I think you're in Arizona today.
I am.
So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Joanne.
It's great to catch up, and we got to know each other a little bit last year with the International Mediation Awareness Week, the morning hangouts. You stayed up and came over to us in Australia. It was fabulous.
Yes, I attended the Australian breakfast. I got done with my IMAW, work, and I was like, who can I talk to from across the globe? Oh, Australia.
Absolutely, yes. It was like you're hanging out all night and then you go into breakfast before going to bed.
It was so fun getting to meet you and everyone else.
Absolutely. Now, but look, can you tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit more about you? Who are you?
I'm an early retired high school teacher. I taught high school for 22 years, health education. And after I retired, I took an early retirement. I was living in Atlanta, and my friends were sitting around the table, and they were talking about an Air Trans Southwest airline merger. And I was hearing this conversation. I said, what about this and this? And they all turned their heads and looked down at me and said, Kathleen, you need to be a mediator. And I said, what's a mediator? So then I called my family and friends and I said, gosh, my friends in Atlanta told me I should be a mediator. And they said, you'd be great at that. And I went, what is it? And they said, we don't know, but you'd be great at it.
Oh, look, that's a perfect, sadly, still a pretty perfect description of mediation. What is it? I'm not sure, but you'd be great at it. I often get that with students that come to me. My friends say I should be a mediator. Mm-hmm. So what is mediation? Can you share with us now that you know?
Now that I know what it is. I started training in 2008, both in Atlanta and Boston at the same time, because I didn't know where I wanted to live. Then I realized Atlanta didn't have any water, any ocean. So I ended up in Boston. For me, mediation is simply everyone having a fully empowered conversation around the table. It's the last place in the dispute resolution process that people can have a fully empowered conversation with fully empowered decisions before they move into a more structured dispute resolution process, where now a third party, whether it be an arbitrator or a judge or a magistrate, is now going to be deciding for them what their lives are going to look like moving forward. So I see mediation as a very hard stop. Let's have this conversation where you have full power and authority to make decisions about your own life. Let's do this here, and let's do it well while we're here. Let's do this well. So that's what mediation is for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think that's very clear for anyone listening. This is your last chance to take control of the situation and make your own decisions with the other person. And the beauty about mediation is, because it's voluntary, a decision that's reached and agreed to is agreed to, rather than something imposed that people try and drag their feet. And
Absolutely. And you're sitting with a third party neutral that has their own process. So everyone at the table has to fit into this beautifully structured process run by a process expert, the mediator, where they really have a chance to sit back and relax as the mediator takes the steering wheel and just drives them through this process, so they can sit back and relax and just really think about any due difference, how they want to resolve the situation, how they finally want to put it to bed so they can move on with their lives.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So you trained in mediation. What areas do you specialize in or are particularly interested in?
Because I started mediating in court, which I recommend to everyone, because court itself is a structured process. When you begin mediating in court, you have a mentor. You are mediating with people, and if it doesn't resolve itself in mediation, the case moves on to the judge or the magistrate in the United States. So you can't really ruin anyone's life by learning to mediate, starting to mediate in court. So I started in the court system, and I was mediating small claims. I was mediating landlord-tenant, which is an extra mediation certification in Massachusetts called summary process. I moved into mediating full and complete divorces under a special project called the Divorce Project in a court south of Boston, well, several courts south of Boston, where mediators were drafting complete full divorces and like lawyers, and any modifications just like lawyers. And we would take these agreements into the judge, and if the agreement wasn't good enough, the judge would send it back and say, no, you forgot this. So we go back and redraft, which is totally embarrassing. So you never wanted to not do well at the drafting. So under those circumstances, I did 500 cases in 2 years, because I was in court 3 days a week, every week for 2 years, volunteering my time. Nobody was paying me to learn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Way to use your retirement.
Yeah, I wanted to learn and do it well. So I threw myself into that system. Now with my private practice in combination with still court work, I do settlement conferences out of Washington State. My private practice is in several states across the country. After private practice, I got into judging, being a judge for mediation tournaments in the United States and now across the globe. And now I train through MediateGuru. I train the 40-hour basic mediation training, the 24 up-level intermediary mediation training, and now a mastery class. So I find myself involved with lots of training because I think mediators need it.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And here in Australia, we've got the basic training, but we haven't really got that structure of the intermediate and the masterclass, and that's something that I'm working on. So we'll have to have some other conversations about what you're doing there.
Absolutely.
Maybe bring you in as an international guest lecturer. Yeah, I guess you've got to get the base, but then continuing developing our skills is really critical.
Yeah. So the basic class teaches you, everyone about mediation. And you get a little bit of practice with the role plays. I don't do typical role plays in my basic class. I make people talk about their lives in the basic class, but it's still a basic class where the people are memorizing the mediator's opening statement and trying to acclimate themselves with the process of mediation. So that next 24-hour intermediary class is about, okay, now how do you talk to people? How do you really talk to people? How do you move people in mediation? And what does that look like? And we hone our skills in communication in the 24-hour up-level class. And then the mastery class combines your art form as a mediator with the pragmatic linear process of mediation. How do you combine that? You as a person and your style, you have a personal art form. So I actually take the elements of art and the principles of art, and I start to enlighten everyone. What are you actually doing at your mediation table? Oh, you're actually doing this art form and that art form and this art form. And everyone is, yeah, I guess I am. So all this awareness, the mastery class is discovery learning. So mediators 5 years and beyond, or that have taken the 24-hour intermediate class, can now take the mastery class and learn more about themselves and learn more about their art form as a person and their style. So when people come out of that, they have a lot of confidence. They know themselves, they know the process, they know how they're blending their style with the process, and it's very undergirding for mediators. They found it essential for their growth, which we don't do in the 40-hour basic. You can't grow. You're so busy learning in the 40-hour basic. There's no time to grow.
Absolutely. we're seeding ourselves proud. Yeah. And now, oh, that's it's a really great metaphor. And I guess what I really like as well, and for end users of mediation services, if you think about mediation as art, we've got from watercolor to oil paintings, to abstract, and a mediator isn't a generic thing. One mediator isn't automatically interchangeable for another. Broadly, the process is of a certain scope, but it matters who your mediator is.
It is. And then when you look at mediation, you look at your pragmatic form, linear form of mediation, and then you link it with your intuitive, organic, and your art form, what you're picking up at the mediation, everyone's different. And so we go from non-awareness, non-competence. Oh, so I asked everyone, so what does your line look like in mediation? And everyone goes, what do you mean, Kathleen? So there's non-competence to then conscious competence, then to unconscious competency. So mediators see their skill levels raising.
Yeah.
And now they know what line looks like for them. Now they know what the elements of art, line and space. And now they know what all this looks like for them at the mediation table. There's tremendous growth, and it's very fun for everyone, including myself. Very fun.
Particularly, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's great seeing increased awareness in people, because as you say, unless you're consciously aware of things, you don't have the power to really grow in a very intentional way.
Yeah, I like that word, intentional. That's a perfect description.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our mediation trainings are very rote, and they're very logistic, and they're very boring, and we know better. Emotional intelligence tells us that when we're laughing and enjoying ourselves, our intelligence raises. So we have to keep things light, and we have to keep things curious and fascinating. And the mastery class, the mediators actually, they're journaling as well. And then they're writing things on a Jamboard as well. And all of the other people that have taken the previous classes with them are joining them on the Jamboard and making comments as well. So the mastery class has all this stuff flowing. A really nice level of introspection and sharing.
It sounds a lot of fun. So look, this podcast is about the International Mediation Awareness Week. So I know that you decided to step up for North America or South America as well, but I'm not sure they joined in too much last year. So why did you get involved? How did you get involved?
Because Will asked me. Then I said yes. And I said, what did I say yes to? Oh my gosh. I don't know how to do all this. Oh my gosh. And all of a sudden I was very stressed out. And I'm like, okay, I gulped. I said, yes, I need to do this. And I learned because of Will, I grew as a leader and a mediator. And I did represent the Americas. And I was happy to pull some people from South America that I knew to represent themselves in South America. And moving forward, I'm going to ask them to reach out to more people in South America so the Americas can be more represented. And I'd like to also reach out to Canada. I know a couple law schools in Canada that have mediation centers in them.
Yeah.
And I want the next year, the 2022, I want to reach out to mediation centers and more so to talk on our IMAW week. And I also want to reach out to law schools that are their law students are actively mediating cases while they're in law school. They have these mediation centers.
Yeah.
I want to reach out to more of those venues that are in the United States. We have mediation centers almost in every county, in every state.
Yeah. And
some of those mediation centers they're approved to send mediators into the court. I want them to talk on IMAW. So we can show what we're doing here in the United States, where our mediation tradition is quite rich. And we can share with each other, because I really think that's what the global community is about with IMAW week, is sharing and learning. Like, I met you and you met me, and we love that we met each other, and we have all kinds of ideas to share. Well, I want to do that more so on a broader scope for the Americas in 2022.
No, it sounds wonderful. That was what I was going to ask. What have you, I know that we're all starting to plan for November. So we've got a big run up, and inviting in partners, event partners and organisations that want to support this movement of increasing awareness of mediation. Have you, I imagine you're in early talks at the moment, but have you thought about the themes or the days that you're hoping to run this year?
I want to have students represented this year. I did a little bit of it last year, and I want to do it more this year. I'm more into featuring guest speakers and not so much doing mock mediations and things like that. I loved the breakfast last year. I think the breakfast networking, I'm going to try to do more with that.
Yeah.
But I really am focused on the speakers. A lot of people joined the speakers from the Americas because they had such interesting topics to talk about. And we found a lot of people from across the globe joining us.
Yeah.
And so I want to do more of that, because for me, the mediation table isn't focused. I think anything can be mediated.
Yeah.
Really, truly anything. So I want the anythings to be represented from the Americas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go find those really cool specialty anythings. And so people go, whoa, you can mediate that too. And oh, look at this and look at
that. Sounds wonderful. And I guess that's really what we're trying to achieve, so that people, instead of thinking, nothing I can do, or I'm going to have to go to court, hey, yes, you can come around a table, you can talk it through, you can look at options, you may be able to find a solution, even here, even in this situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, in the United States, a lot of people use mediation, and lawyers have to train with a mediation center. They have to actually join a mediation center to take a mediation course to be a lawyer mediator.
Yeah.
Different states have different rules for that, of course. There's a lot of mediation going on here in the States, and I'm not a numbers person, so I don't go looking at the statistics. I'm sure we have a lot of litigiousness in our society as well, because in the United States, we're very competitive. And we want to win.
Yeah.
We want to win. So I'm sure there's a lot of that, but there's a lot of mediation as well.
Yeah. For a mediator, it's fabulous. You can have a win-win outcome. We get what they need. And people say, I don't want them to get what they need.
Exactly. So you can go to court. You can get your gladiator lawyer and go to court and pay the money and have at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You still probably end up 1/3 for you, 1/3 for them, and 1/3 for the lawyer.
Yes, because they eventually come up against the judge who is going to judge according to the law. And even my judges that I worked for, they told clients, because I sat front of the rail as a mediator, I was up there with my judge, I was up there with my magistrate, and they would say, one of you is going to win and one of you is going to lose, and somebody's not going to like this decision. They would say it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mainly work in the family law arena, and it's not like, it'll be a percentage split usually. So there's not an absolute winner or loser, but often everyone's unhappy. I guess an agreement is always better than an order when it comes to resolving a dispute.
The agreement, at least you can talk it out at the mediation table. And once you get in front of a judge, it's zero dark silent, and your lawyer is the one who's now speaking for you. And splitting it is not a win. Well, people that want to go into a win when they have to split stuff with the other person, that's not a win to them.
No,
that's a lose-lose.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's not.
No, one of the I think really special things about the International Mediation Awareness Week is it's free to participate. There's a VIP option, but for anyone at all who wants to attend, it's free. But part of that is sponsors or event partners that help to support that. So have you got a call out for people or organisations that may like to be an event sponsor for North America, or for the Americas rather?
I have to say no, and it's only because of my personality. I'm just not money driven. So money is the last thing I think about. And yes, support for IMAW week is super important, so we can keep growing and growing. So I need to really think about the corporate connections that I have, people that would like to donate and have a charitable contribution to IMAW. So I need to think along those lines. So thank you for bringing that up.
To help that anyone who wants to be involved and have a presence in here, you can go to the IMAW website, which is imaw.org. And there's a form there, and then it'll come back to Kathleen, and she won't feel like she's cold calling you.
What a good place to put their money, for sure.
And you can have a fabulous conversation with her, because it's always wonderful to talk with you. And I guess the same thing, anyone who's listening that's thinking, oh wow, this sounds really interesting, you can go to the website and register for the mailing list, and once we get all our events up, you'll be able to register to attend the events as well. Go and check it out, get familiar with it, go back and visit, see as we're developing. If you are in mediation, then contact us.
Feel free to reach out.
Propose what you want to talk about or what you want to hear as well. I know you won't mind hunting down particular speakers and topics that if people are letting you know this would be really fascinating, or I know that there's some great work being done by these people. You'd be open to that, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. Do you want me to say my email address out loud?
If you're willing to do that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's RUANE, my middle name, Rowan, 3829@gmail.com.
Excellent. So you can just replay the recording if you need to hear that again, everyone. And yeah, so reach out to Kathleen and help us to make this an even bigger event than it was last year, and spread the word about mediation awareness. So there's a couple of other things that you've been working on. One of the things that you've been working with some of the other people that you met last year is on an international young mediators program. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Yeah, there's a wonderful project between Kudrat from India and Jane from England, and they have put together a program for young mediators, people in college, to join and start to learn to be a mediator. So they put on a class, a 40-hour basic training class earlier last month, I believe. And right now they're having people that are interested, these young students that are interested, coming to meet with us. And yesterday, 2 days ago, they just practiced their mediator's opening statement with peer review. Kudrat has incredible energy, and Jane is just delightful. And she's a professor from a college in the UK. And together, they're just dynamo. So I've joined as one of their trainers, just to help these students. I put out a slide deck. I did a verbal mediators opening and sent it out so the students could see what it looks like. And they're all coming together from around the world to learn this craft of mediation.
It's wonderful, isn't it? The connections and I guess the worldwide community that's being built, which it can only be for the better. I noticed something else on LinkedIn with our colleagues in the Ukraine. Can you tell us a little bit about what's evolving there?
Yes, mediator Vikram Singh from India reached out and asked me if I could help a couple mediators, one in particular at first from the Ukraine. They've fled their country. They're watching their country, everything be destroyed, and they want to still do what they do. They want to be involved with the mediation community. So I reached out to IMAW first, and we took care of that situation with the first person that Vikram asked me to help. And then the second person that Vikram asked me to help, I hooked her up with Will Chalmers out of the UK, which Will graciously said, yes, everyone. Then Will did an all call, anyone mediator from the Ukraine, feel free to put your CV information up on our website, Mediator Network website, and he did this glorious thing. Now these mediators from the Ukraine, they're living in Germany and Spain and all over the place, and maybe still in the Ukraine, can actually be involved in getting paid for what they know how to do. In addition, because I'm involved with a high school mediation tournament, which is only the third one to happen here in the United States, I said, if you'd like to do something right now, immediately, why don't you come and work with these students, high school students in Arizona that are having a mediation tournament April 9th, which is right around the corner, and help them with their skills. And this Dick Hawkins, who is very well known, and he has started INADR, INADR, his daughter Kathy is the one that's pioneering for her father, because her father's vision is not just law school students and graduate students in mediation tournaments, but high school students too. So Kathy Hawkins is pioneering for her dad. And now Alina and Anna will be basically keynote speaking and training these students in Arizona, these particular high schools. And so they will have firsthand contact with these wonderful mediators from the Ukraine. The rest of us, we're all watching the news about Ukraine, while these students are now directly connected with these wonderful Ukraine mediators that are helping them hone their skills for the tournament.
Wow.
Yes, it's a big wow.
Yeah.
And Ivana from IMI has been wonderful. And Will Chalmers from the Mediator Network has been wonderful. And we just need the wonderful to spread. I call it big love. We need some big love right now in these times. And I'm so glad that people responded. And I'm so glad that Mediator Vikram Singh reached out to me and asked me and a couple other people, can you please help?
Yeah.
So his call for help, his SOS call, I responded, and so did Ivana, and so did Lisa Singh, I believe, from the United States. And we're just doing the best we can do.
Yeah, and starts a snowball rolling down the hill.
Yeah, exactly. I call it a wildfire.
Wildfire.
Let's get going.
Yeah.
Let's help. Let's respond.
Sounds good. And look, I'm just aware of time, but for those that aren't familiar, what happens in a mediation competition? How do you do competitive mediation?
The skills of memorizing the mediator's opening statement. Those competitions are a mediator, then a client advocate. So usually it's a team of 3 advocates. So they get used to playing the role of the client, which you bring the emotionality to the table, which helps you understand other people, by the way, someday when they're mediators. The advocate plays the lawyer role, plays the role of counsel. So they start to hone their skills in the role of counsel, and the mediator plays the role of mediator. So these mediation skills are being honed. And I've had several teams that I've trained. I just had a team that went to the moot in Tokyo, the FDI moot in Tokyo. And we trained hard 2 days a week. These are your mediation skills. So memorize your mediator's opening, memorize the process of mediation. But now, how do you listen to someone? How do you summarize? No, I didn't say that. You need to summarize what you heard me say. So everyone's these tournaments, they make everyone practice mediation skills. And even if you don't have a good mediator at the table, I train my client advocates. If you're a mediator in the tournament, it's not summarizing, you need to. So everyone's learning how to summarize and really hear each other, and then move the mediation to agreement. So if I had that training before I became a mediator, I would have been much better coming out of the gates when I finally went to court. But I had to start from the beginning at court. These students, this generation, they're not going to have to start from the beginning because they all flock to these tournaments. And these tournaments have 60 teams, 43 teams. MediateGuru just got done with their tournament last week. And Nader had a tournament in Bhopal last week. There's probably over 100 teams practicing mediation skills last week, just in India alone, via Zoom, of course. Yeah, they're all over the place. So that's what they are. And some they charge using entrance fee or some amount of money, some less, some more. Some tournaments require that you have a coach. A lot of them are from college. A lot of them are from law school, teams and coaches. And Kathy Hawkins has now started the high school rendition of these mediation tournaments. And she had it last year in Arizona, and I was one of the judges, and the high school students were doing really well. It was fun to judge that tournament.
It would, and it's a comment I often get from mediators. I wish I had these skills. I wish I had this knowledge decades ago. And for kids getting it straight into school, it's very valuable, because understanding, basic things about other humans, that they can be different to you without doing it on purpose, which is a big insight that people can get when they really engage and communicate with other people.
Yes. When I train these teams, I train for accuracy. And when I teach for accuracy and clarity, because when the mediator can make the mediation table filled with accuracy and clarity about each side's positions, now people can start to hear each other better, because their mediator is making sure that they're capturing the accuracy of what's being expressed at their mediation table and then clarifying. So now people have a different kind of a chance to understand each other. And and the underbelly with the emotionality as well, and not just the positions, because as mediators, we know somebody states something, that's a position, but behind what they've stated are the interests. And then when you do the more mediation training, you learn that behind interests are attachments and tethering. So as mediators, we're trained to bring all of that accuracy out on the mediation table, and now people understand each other better because of our skill sets.
Absolutely. And we know inherent in conflict is that people make assumptions and they project and they make all sorts of inaccurate realities in their mind that are just not true.
Yes.
And then bringing that clarity, shining that light, you get that ability for people to start seeing the humanity in the other side again and bringing them back from being the other party or whatever they do. They try and use that sort of language. And as a mediator, it's another human being, it's another person.
Those people over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why we work on safety, because one of the things in the mastery class we learned about was psychological safety and all the factors that are involving with psychological safety. Once people have that psychological safety at the mediation table, whether it's in joint session or private sessions, they will share, they will bring forth their integrity and the underbelly of what they're really feeling. And that's the beauty of mediation that can never happen in court, that can never happen in arbitration. There's no other place for all that to happen except in mediation.
No, absolutely. And the mediator there creates that safe space. So you can't do that in the direct conversation once the conflict's risen to a certain level, where I often think of us as a catalyst, that we come in and change the environment to allow that process to unfold. It's up to the people who have the issues to come up with their solution, but we definitely can create an environment that makes that a bit easier.
Absolutely. It's winter storms at either side of the table, and we just create spring. We're like, okay, what can we grow here?
Absolutely. And if you weren't going down that path, where would you go? What would it look like?
We see some new growth over here. Oh, thank you for that. Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Absolutely. I work in a lot of family and workplace mediation, so not so much area that you've mentioned. And a lot of the time there are those value-laden words like respect and those sorts of things. And people don't realize that their definition, their meaning for respect can be completely different. Mm-hmm. And so they may be receiving a respectful behavior from the other person under their meaning of it, but it's way missing the mark for them. They're feeling disrespected or whatever.
Yes. And that's, as mediators, we know how to ask those open-ended questions. What does respect look like for you?
Yeah.
And what does respect look like for you?
That's right.
And once we get our training and we learn how to talk to people, we really can change people's lives for the better. Absolutely. Let them move forward with their due difference
and step away from our own assumptions, things that we can bring into the room without training and
people talk about that, our biases as mediators and things like that. And I simply just say to them, just stay curious. If you stay curious, you really minimize your biases as a mediator.
Yeah.
So keep very curious to offset all of that mediator bias.
That is very good advice, and probably a really good point to end our chat, as much as I'd like to keep going for it.
You and I could do that. We could keep going.
We could but yeah, curiosity. I would agree with you. I think it's our most powerful tool. And when we've got a question occurring in our head as a mediator, just ask it. I'm curious. If you can ask pretty much anything if you've established a rapport and you ask with curiosity.
It's amazing. You can. You really can ask anything.
Yeah. Even for sponsors to come and get involved in the International Mediation Awareness Week.
That's what we're asking. That's right. You better show up. Let's keep going.
So look, thank you so much for making this time. If people want to get in, connect with Kathleen from any capacity whatsoever, she's shared her email address with you. Go to the International Mediation Awareness Week and select the Americas and connect up and have a conversation. See where it takes you.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as I enjoyed making it. The International Mediation Awareness Week is on in November each year. The podcast will be coming out to you each week with conversations with mediators from around the world. Please like and subscribe on whatever channel you're listening to the podcast on, and visit the International Mediation Awareness Week website, imaw.org, to find out more about the upcoming events or how you can be involved. Till next week, I'm Joanne Law from Mediation Institute in Australia.